On my left, one 4x4 project. On my right, one 4x4 project. Today we are building two different candy canes which take one 4x4x8 each and your miter saw. This guy here, he's as tall as I am. And this one, well, he's adorable. He holds little stockings. It has its own little stand. Let's build these from biggest to smallest. Each of these only taking a single 4x4x8. You can buy a treated 4x4. You can buy a pine one. They do sell them in cedar. They're pretty cashy. Whatever 4x4 you choose to use, let's do it. First, I changed my angle to 22.5 degrees. But why is there a convenient 22.5 degree angle already marked out on my miter saw? Well, it's because it's half of 45 degrees. Sometimes in carpentry and trim work, 45 degree angles are just too sharp for what they're doing, so they added in a 22.5 degree angle. Also, 22.5 degrees is exactly the angle you need if you're cutting something into an octagon shape to have two matching angles on the inside. Cut a long piece at 60 inches. I unfortunately do not have the workbench space to slice this up in one go. With the leftover piece, put the longest side against your fence and cut 3 pieces at 8 inches long. Make sure that your angles are the correct direction. After each cut, you should be flipping your board over. You can leave this final piece at 17 inches long, or you can shorten it. To make it a little shorter, set your angle back to 0 and cut the board at 10 inches long. How much of the project can I see? Okay, not a lot. Guys, it's either you're looking at me or you're looking at the project, but it can't be both. I know. I mean, do you need to see me though? I can get down a little. I can get you down to there. How about that? To glue this baby up, we are going to use some Titebond 3 because I'm not sure if this is going outside or not. It's not an exterior grade wood, but I am going to be painting it. Not with exterior grade paint. It doesn't matter. It might end up outside. Some blue tape, you know, in our little dispenser thing. This little brush, because that's fun. I love the little brush. And or your finger. Hey, you still got them. And if you have 10 fingers, toes, 2 eyes, 2 ears, you are above the average number of fingers, toes, eyes, ears. Because at some point, somebody's lost one, and that's going to take the average below, 2 or 10. You're above average in all those things. If you're missing one, you still might be above average. I don't know what the average is. Let's do some woodworking. To get this baby done, what I'm going to do, I'm going to glue that big boy one last. So I'm taking these, I'm just going to line them up like so. I'm going to put some tape on this line. Too much tape. Just a little piece so when we bend them, smacks are together. You see my tape kind of come off of there? Bam! Now what you doing? Boom! Folding. Beautiful. Now we're just going to work our way down the project. And lastly, remember that the angled cut is where you are matching up to this other board, not our 90-degree angle. So all right, that was the easy part. Now, I'm going to just rotate it, all the pieces at the same time. Ooh, maybe not, maybe not. Hold on there, joint. Yeah. One more time. The problem is the tape is not strong enough to hold, and I am not strong enough to rotate this all in one go, I guess. Now we got these pretty little pieces, and when you start, turning them, ding, you got a perfect candy cane. We're going to squirt some glue. The tape on the bottom also prevents the glue from running out of that edge, so it gives you, that nice clean look. Alternatively, it is going to cause the glue to squeeze out anywhere else it possibly can. Now, use your finger, use this little glue brush. We are going to lather it up. You know what, just start, yeah. Since it took me so long to get everything glued from this one all the way down to this one has began to set up, and that is what we want it to do. Now, end grain is not as strong of a joint, especially if you're butting two pieces together. So what you want to do is actually apply glue, let it set up for 3 or 4 minutes, and then apply more glue, because as you can start seeing, the wood is actually soaking that glue up. It's like a bunch of little straws. So once you apply glue, it's going to fall into the straws. Add more glue to the surface so that you have good glue up. So we're going to wait a couple minutes, then we're going to do all this again. That's nice. Yeah. You guys need a bathroom break or anything? Now you may be asking yourself, you may be thinking, but Zach, what about dowels? What about splines? What about the pins, dominoes, biscuits, nails, screws? Did I miss any of them? And I'd say, look, my name's Aaron, not Zach. Now we are going to jump on the struggle bus to get this into a candy cane shape. Here we go. What fun. We are going to squeeze, and we're going to wait because we want all that glue, that delicious yum yum, to squeeze out of there. Remember when I said add more glue? There it all is. And we're going to do that again. But then we're going to shift our weight. Oh, man. This is almost as much fun when you go to Buffalo Wild Wings and you put, you have a ranch cup left over. So you put an empty one on top of the full one and you squeeze it down in there and it squirts out everywhere. That's pretty much what I'm doing now. Ooh, that one was very wet. Okay, look at that. Okay, yeah, delish. This is a mess. This is a mess. Okay. Not sure how on camera this is. I'm adding a piece of tape just so I don't have to support anything while I clean this up. But I'm just gonna kind of just clean up the glue a little. Usually I let this harden into place and then I just scrape it off with a scraper, but I am building another one today. So you can see my tape has loosened. It's just because it's kind of fallen into place. So what we're gonna do is rip the tape so it's so much easier to work with. There we go. And we're gonna squeeze and squirt it down into place. And I'm gonna put that piece of tape right back on the top. See how tight that is? Perfect. And now we just wait until tomorrow. Remove the tape and sand your candy cane. I find it easier to paint the white before you paint the red for our candy canes. Red covers white a lot better than white paint is going to cover red. Paint the entire thing white too. No reason to mess with taping off the red just to retape it. I also leave the candy cane on the longest part of its back and paint that spot after it's all dried. So do you really need to add any dowels, splines, dominoes, screws, nails, anything into this joint? And my answer is no. It's a very strong joint. I didn't have that much faith in it, but it is a very strong. This baby ain't doing nothing. So it is strong. You don't need to deal with trying to line up dowels and pins. It might mess this angles up. Just some glue, a little more glue. To add the stripes, I've never done this before, nor have I attempted to do it yet, so learning curve for everybody. Pivot, angles. I mean, with like a 65-degree angle, I feel like that's going to be too sharp. You know, let's just try 45 and see what we get. And if that's the case, I can do this. So we're going to take some blue tape and we're just going to start at the bottom. And you can completely guess this angle if you want to. It doesn't matter. I'm going to put my candy cane just so I can spin this around freely without it falling over or anything crazy. Actually, I'm going to make it so I can rest it for just a second. Oh my gosh. That's what you don't want to happen because you might have a tape line. There's a little divot right here. I wonder if something like poked it. 45 degrees looks like it's the answer, bud. So I'm going to twirl this all the way to the top. All right. Now when we get to the end, I don't know. I don't know what this does. So if I keep it taut, I keep my angle. With the curves, it actually goes straight, so I wouldn't keep going down. So I'm just going to help it out, give it the angle again to continue. So for this, angle my tape. You guys really can't see what I'm doing. Grab a razor blade. We're going to cut this little spot off. Then we're going to cut this line to be straight as well. It's in the underside, so not too many people should be able to see it. And I got one more step before I start slathering on the red paint, because anything under the tape will remain white, but anything that's white is going to become red. And candy canes are a 50-50 mix between red and white. So I want to add one more strip of tape to my candy cane so that it gives me a little bit more predominant white. I might even almost have to do a strip and a half. I've got pretty thin tape. This is like 1.5 inches. If you've got some 2-inch tape, I think that's where it's at. But that's what I'm doing. I'm going to add on some more tape off camera. And then we're going to just paint everything red. I'm choosing to use a roller versus my brush because this is a really thin, cheapy paint. And I get better coverage if I'm using a roller instead of my brush. So might not have to 2-coat it because I really don't want to. Yeah, look at that coverage. That first candy cane was pretty beginner, just a couple cuts on the miter saw. We are done. Now this candy cane is going to be a couple more cuts with the miter saw, all still only a miter saw, no special tools needed, but there's a couple extra steps that we need to do. And the first one is to cut this into our legs for both of them, still using the miter saw. See all those little teeth marks? Miter saw. So to get that lined up, I actually do it with the longest board possible. Now, our legs themselves are going to be 14 inches long. That's only going to give me less than 6 inches on both sides once I cut in that miter. And I want to do things safe as possible. I like my hands to be far away from the big spinny sharp thing. I don't know why, I just don't like them near it. So to start out, I had first marked 14 inches with my tape measure. Also, do you guys know that they're not making yardsticks any longer? Did you hear that? They're done making them longer. They're not making them shorter either. So 14 inches is our first line. This line, we are going to cut the board entirely for the leg. Again, I don't want to have to hold on to here and be cutting right here. I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to leave this as one big piece to start out, and then I'll cut it in half when I'm done. So to achieve this little guy, 14 inches is how long our legs are. So half of that would be 7 inches. This total distance being 3.5 inches for our 4x4. I need to go 1.25 inches to either side of that center line. So I am at 5 1/4 and 8 3/4. And that is what I'm going to remove all of that's on the inside of these lines down like that. That is our first leg. The second leg, again, starting at 14 inches, ending at 28 inches, 14 times 2. Center of that's going to be 21 because it is divisible by 7. 21 inches is our center line. This I am lining up on 19 1/4. Not sure how that happened. And 22 3/4. And then again, everything inside of there gets removed. And we are going to remove half. Oh yeah, I need to finish talking about the things I have sitting on the workbench. You'd think that would be a good reminder. It's not. 3.5 inches fits very well into here. 3.5 inches fits in there. And we, again, are cutting out this shape, and it fits the boards like a glove. If this one had that little piece cut out, of course, they would marry perfectly together to create a nice little stand. Now, you do not have to do this using that 4x4. If you wanted to make them a little bit taller, hang a couple extra stockings on it, whatever you're doing with these, you can use a piece of 2x4, and it's that same thing we just did to make that little speaker amplifier in the last video. You're going to cut the groove down to half the distance, but the same width as your 2x4, just like we did here. Measure out to the centers, get her all lined up. I like just building it out of one piece of 4x4 because it's one board. I like one board builds. So let me show you how to get this set up on the miter saw after I make my initial 28-inch cut. On the end of your 4x4, make a mark in the center. Either draw an X or measure down 1 3/4 inch. On your miter saw, there should be a little knob adjustment screw that limits how far down the blade can go. Begin cranking that knob until the blade depth matches the mark you just made. It helps to add a board to your fence so that the miter saw blade has the opportunity to fully cut through the depth of your groove. Line the blade up on the inside of the lines we drew on the top and cut out the grooves. Again, this is easier and safer with the board being a little bit longer than that finished cut of 14 inches. With both cut out, make the final cut to separate your two pieces. Beauty! We actually need these apart because, oh no, you gotta add, you gotta add something. And if you really want to fancy things up, you can cut a gentle miter off of the top of one and the bottom of the other to kind of give it, a rounded effect when you put the pieces together. This candy cane's warble is slightly smaller than our first. And yes, the candy cane parts have names. Adjust the miter saw to that sweet 22.5 degree and cut your first piece to 7 inches, leaving one edge at 90 degrees. Next, cut 3 pieces at 6 inches. Pay close attention to the angle directions. We don't have any room for error. You can leave that final piece at what should be close to 48 inches, or you can cut it down to 40 inches as the plans show. Use the same glue and tape method to create your candy cane shape. To attach everything together, it's pretty basic. You're going to take your feet, legs, bracing, whatever you call them, and because they interlock like so with these on the top, you're going to take this top piece. You are going to set him on the bottom, and if you got your candy cane chilling on its back like this makes everything a perfect, 90 degrees and lines it all up. Told you it was easy. Now, guys, don't use drywall screws. Drywall screws are for drywall. They're more brittle. They're easily to snap. If you're putting this outside, it might not take the stresses of everything moving around. Just don't use them. So we are stepping up to using just some deck screws. It is an exterior screw for me. I have exactly 3 construction screws, so that won't do. I need 4. So we move on to this bucket. It's, the way of life. If you guys wanted to pilot your holes, you may do so, or you can just screw them straight in. I don't think with this you're going to really risk splitting out the wood. You're kind of getting right into the middle beef of everything. And what we are going to do is I'm going to use actually three in this guy to get down into my material. And then when I go to put this piece on, I want to alternate my screw pattern. So one is going to go up here. It's easier just to do this now. And then once they're on top of each other, this one will sink in between and between. So you're not hitting these on the heads of the exact screw that you hit, because that is our luck. So, ooh. Line them up on the side and screw them into place. I was getting a little scared when I was sanding the legs. I was like, what if the legs aren't long enough and it's still too top heavy? But you got a ways. Wow, a ways before it's going to fall over. So, whew, got a real Jack and the Beanstalk situation going on here. It's well out of frame. This one, I'm going to stain. I'm going to stain it with just a natural, just to keep that wood look. And then I might do a cooler ribbon type of situation going up instead of just the traditional one stripe. I might, do a double. I'm going to look up some cool candy cane things today. So we'll see where we go. Pretty. A little more tape to create that candy cane spiral. Slather on that paint. Let's say you go to remove your tape and, ooh, it's not your best tape job. Honestly, does painter's tape ever really work to expectation? So what you could do is take some ribbon and you can just line it around, starting at the bottom, going to the top. I put just a dot of super glue in each corner to make it so, the ribbon stays where you want it to. And it really dresses it up, makes it look a lot nicer. And there you have it, 2 candy canes and a fun day in the shop. If you guys are not subscribed, what are you doing? 70% of viewers not subscribed. Hit that subscribe button. Video every week. It's a fun project. All free plans. What are you doing? Just subscribe. Click. Bye.